Venezuela!
Hands off Venezuela!
Maduro! Maduro! Dale al Yankee duro! Today's action is as a response to the recent attempted and developing coup against Venezuela. Now we have Miguel Figueroa speaking on behalf of the Canadian Peace Congress.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of the Canadian Peace Congress, I'm very pleased to bring solidarity greetings to this rally, to many other rallies that are happening across the country and in Quebec as well tomorrow, and this throughout this weekend in the United States and around the world, in solidarity with the Maduro government and with the Bolivarian revolution in Venezuela. No to the coup in Venezuela. No! Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, I don't know how many of you had a chance to read the editorial in the Toronto Star yesterday. But I read it because I saw the headline and it said, "A step too far." So I read it, and the first paragraph was okay. It was questioning the decision of the Canadian government to recognize this pretender to the throne, this puppet Juan Guaido. But then it went on to say that up until now, Canada has been playing a constructive role in the Lima Group. And that the sanctions that they have imposed are in the interest of democracy and freedom for the Venezuelan people. As I read through that editorial, I was doing two things. I was conflicted. I was screaming and I was laughing at the same time, because I've never read such tripe in my life. But this is what is being fed to the Canadian people and to the people around the world by the mainstream imperialist and corporate press. This is a decisive moment, brothers and sisters, to rally in support of the Bolivarian revolution in this very dark and dangerous moment. And I have to say, and this is ironic, because I find myself in agreement with what that scumbag Mike Pompeo said in the Security Council this morning. He said that it's time for everybody to take sides in Venezuela. Well, we agree. It is absolutely necessary to decide where you stand on this very fundamental question. This is not a time for self-doubts and hand-wringing and talking about, well, the Maduro government could have done this and they made a mistake or shortcoming here or there. This is a decisive moment where we have to decide which side are we on. Are we on the side of the people in the Bolivarian process, or are we on the side of reaction and imperialism and fascism? That's the choice that we have.
That's right. Julia Scott will speak on behalf of Socialist Action.
Okay. Thank you, comrades. My name is Julia Scott. I am speaking today on behalf of Socialist Action, Acción Socialista. We categorically reject the coup attempt of the U.S. government against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Washington blatantly ignores and violates the sovereign decision of the Venezuelan people. In a democratic and transparent election, in the presence of international observers, they elected Nicolas Maduro as their legitimate president last May. On January 22nd, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence sent a recorded message out that was broadcast by 2,500 media outlets for 3 days in coordination with the shadowy Organization of American States, calling for subversion against Maduro's government. Before the eyes of the world, and in the most grotesque manner, they presented their new puppet for the occasion, Juan Guaido. Guaido is a man who never ran for president and represents a small party in the National Assembly. The Assembly is a body that is guilty of not cleaning up election irregularities that occurred in 3 southern districts in the 2015 election. The naming of Guaido as president out of thin air would be laughable if the situation were not so serious, threatening the stability of the hemisphere. So Guaido is recognized by 7 countries, and Nicolas Maduro is recognized by nearly 100. The clear aim of imperialism is to overthrow Maduro, as it has been trying to do by credit strangulation, by trade embargo, and perhaps now by military intervention.
Right now, I'd like to invite John Riddell from the Socialist Project.
Hello, sisters and brothers. I bring you greetings today from Socialist Project. And I'd like to read a short statement by our steering committee. Congratulations on coming to this wonderful rally today. And when we meet here, we know that each one of us represents an immensity of Canadians across the country who simply don't buy this idea of regime change in Venezuela opposed by Parliament Hill and by the White House. And so here we are. And during the last days, both the U.S. and Canadian governments have tried to overthrow a democratically elected government in Venezuela. Socialist Project calls on these governments to cease their interference in Venezuela's internal political process and halt all sanctions against the country. The Canadian government can best aid the Venezuelan people through strict respect for Venezuelan sovereignty and the Venezuelan people's right to determine their own future. So thank you very much, and hands off Venezuela.
Hands off Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela! Hands off! Thank you, John. Right now, I'd like to invite the leader of the CPC, the Canadian Communist Party, Lise Rowley, to give us a couple words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and hands off Venezuela!
Hands off Venezuela!
Hands off Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela! Well, we may have to come back again, because they may not get the message. They're not too smart, these guys. They think somehow that if we get on our knees and we beg the United States that we are going to get a better deal with NAFTA, maybe, or we're going to get a better deal with NATO funding, maybe. They're thick, they're stupid, but they're also very dangerous. And we can see what is happening not only in Venezuela with the Canadian governments. How fast should we go? How much can we support you? How many times can we call for regime change to know that they're not going to get anything from the United States? It's the United States and U.S. imperialism which is dictating to Canada and the Canadian government. And the Canadian government's response is shameful. Shame, shame on Canada. This is going to be an issue in the next federal election. Canadian foreign policy has to be an issue because it's changed significantly for the worse. Not that it was very good before, but we have never been involved directly in a U.S. dirty war and calling for the overthrow of a popularly elected government. And everyone knows that the election that was held for President Maduro was one of the cleanest elections of any country in the world. And they can't hide that. There were international observers there. And they don't like the election because they don't like the result of the election. And that's what this is about. But this is also part of a bigger project for U.S. imperialism. They are not just looking at Venezuela. They're looking at all of South and Latin America and the Caribbean, because they cannot stand, they won't stand for governments and peoples who try to exert their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, their right to choose their own government and choose what kind of economic and social future they want for themselves.
We have Raul Burbano from Common Frontiers.
Venezuela's under attack. What do we do? Thank you very much. First of all, if Nicolas Maduro is a dictator, then we need more dictators like Nicolas Maduro. Nicolas Maduro in the Bolivarian Revolution has given 2.5 million housing for the homeless. It has undertaken 23 elections in the last 20 years. It has provided free healthcare and education to the majority of Venezuelans. So if this is a dictatorship, then please, we need some of that here in Canada, because we have a homeless crisis here in Toronto, just to speak of that. I've been to Venezuela a couple times, and I was there as an elections observer, and I can tell you unequivocally that Venezuela is not a dictatorship. If anything, their democratic system is much more participatory, much more democratic and secure than ours. And Venezuelans across Venezuela can tell you that. Now, the situation that we have today, the crisis, quote-unquote crisis that's taking place, is obviously very serious. But we have to keep in mind that it's well coordinated, it's been planned for a long time, and it's not new. The fight and the struggle to overthrow the Bolivarian Revolution has been going on for 20 years, since 1998 when Hugo Chavez took power. In 2002, there was an attempted coup d'etat against Hugo Chavez. There was an oil strike that tried to paralyze the economy. We all know that. It was organized by the U.S., led by the U.S. with regional and local elites. These are lackeys. These are puppets of the U.S. like you have in Brazil, in Honduras, in other countries like Guatemala, who themselves have egregious human rights violations and now propose to support democracy around the world. It's ludicrous. Shame. Shame. We see that the Canadian government, unfortunately, and it's probably not surprising, has been one of the second country to recognize, Juan Guaido, who has himself proclaimed, President of Venezuela. It's probably the most absurd thing that could have happened. Why is Canada, the U.S., and all its regional lackeys trying to overthrow the democratically elected government of Maduro? First, we know it's for the regional resources: oil, gold, coltan, all the natural resources that Venezuela has. The United States and its regional allies want to get access to that. And also that the U.S. is trying to punish the Venezuelan people for daring to dream that you can build an alternative to the neoliberal model, the Bolivarian dream, that seeks to unite the people of Latin America, that seeks to give the people of Latin America control of their natural resources. This is what the U.S. is trying to punish, for people to dream something different. So I think this is what we have to keep in mind. We need to stand up together, and as we say in Latin America, for those who speak Spanish, alerta, 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 alerta que camina la espada de Bolívar por América Latina. Alerta, 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 alerta que camina la espada de Bolívar por América Latina. Solidarity with Venezuela, solidarity with the people of Venezuela.